public services. So we call this hearing now into order. Electricity is essential for humanity to develop and thrive. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals emphasize the need to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Hindi sapat na may linya lamang ng kuryente ang ating mga tahanan. Dapat ito ay gumagana, mura, at maaasahan. Last December 2021, the onslaught of Typhoon Odette left several areas in Visayas and Mindanao without electricity as power lines and electric posts were knocked down. In this age of technology, the lack of electricity can severely impact the whole community and the economy. Today, we will tackle a measure born out of public clamor for better and cheaper electricity. House Bill number 10306 seeks to amend Republic Act number 11212, the franchise granted to More Electric and Power Corporation in 2019, to expand their service coverage to the 2nd and 4th District of Iloilo. More Power is currently the sole electric distributor in Iloilo City. In this hearing, we want to get an overview of the power situation in the province of Iloilo. Who are the existing electricity distributors? What areas are they servicing? And what are the prevailing electricity rates? We also want to know the impact of this proposal. Is this a takeover, or are we looking at two distributors in one area? We also question, is this arrangement allowed under prevailing laws? And ultimately, how will this affect consumers, those in expanded areas and those who will be left with the present distributor? Have they been consulted about this? Nevertheless, we have invited government regulators to help us in assessing and determining the plausibility and legality of this proposal. We also invited stakeholders to air their views about this measure. So with that, I would like to acknowledge our senators present here today. First, our Majority Leader, Senator Mig Zubiri, our Minority Leader, Senator Frank Drilon, Senator Amy Marcos, and also Senator Win Gatchalian. Maybe I would like to allow our senators if they have any brief opening statements. Does anybody want to give a brief opening? Minority Leader Senator Drilon is recognized.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and we thank the good chairperson for hearing this bill, not for anything, but because it has many issues which will crop up in this hearing today and in the future, and that is based and basically the issue of the exclusivity. Under the Constitution, no franchise shall be exclusive, but this franchise allows the applicant more to operate and distribute power in the municipalities, 16 or so municipalities enumerated in the bill. So the issue of the meaning of the non-exclusivity under the Constitution is squarely raised in this franchise. We have done one, I discover, for a public utility in Davao, and there are, I understand, two pending bills of a similar nature. So this is the issue that is being confronted by this bill. And as I was telling Senator Gatchalian, this will be an issue that I think will end up in the courts because it has not been presented before in the legal forum, and this is a challenge to us. How do we decide on this? And the other issue I would like to flag at this point is the proposal that in effect the equity, in effect that the shares of stock can be transferred to another corporation so long as the management remains in the grantee. That should be a subject of a discussion and inquiry whether this is feasible. Power distribution, even in the proposed Public Service Act, is a public utility. And under the franchise, we grant the equity in or the transfer of shares to another entity, which will result in control, is prohibited. The issue is retaining management is being equated to retaining control, even if the equity is the majority is foreign owned. In other words, under this proposal, even if foreigners hold 90% of the shares in a distribution utility granted a franchise, transferring that 90% to, I'm sorry, can I repeat? Assuming that you have a grantee, one which is 90% owned by Filipinos, if you transfer that 90% or half of that, and therefore sealed control, sealed majority to a foreign equity, if you retain control, is that consistent with the Constitution? So these are legal issues which I am interested in, Madam Chair, and that is why I have taken time to study the franchise and the jurisprudence and the law on this point. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, for this opportunity to make an opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Judon. In fact, it is a comfort to have you in this hearing because we would also like to have an expert in constitutionality, as well as you mentioned, the issues that we are being confronted with, the takeover of the franchise, as well as the expansion and having maybe two service providers for power distribution in one area. So maybe I would also like to ask if Senator Win Gatchalian, the Committee on Energy, if you have any opening statements.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, likewise, I thank the good chairperson for conducting this hearing. Ever since I became the chairman of the Energy Committee, it's been our goal to lower down electricity rates across the nation. And in fact, the Senate passed the Murang Kuryente Act, which lowered down our electricity rates by approximately 90 centavos. So with that, Madam Chair, with this new approach to delivering electricity service, it's important to look at not only the rates but also the unintended consequences in this type of franchises. And it's good that we raised a lot of the issues in this hearing, together with the legal issues that Senator Frank discussed earlier, and also the technical issues as well as regulatory issues that can affect our consumers. At the end of the day, this is for our consumers, and we have to look at all angles so that the delivery of electricity will be as smooth, sustainable, and as economical as possible. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Gatchalian. Indeed, we have the view of the customers in mind, the clients, and how service would be affected. It should also always be beneficial to them. I don't know, Senator Marcos has an opening, but if not, maybe ask the Secretary to please identify, to please recognize our resource persons. And with that, I would also like our resource persons to please, if possible, kindly turn on your video so we can see that you're actually present. Pakibukas po yung mga camera ninyo para lang malaman na nandyan kayo at para sa aming record. Okay, Secretariat.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Madam Chair. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Okay, good morning, everyone. For today's hearing, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the following resource persons from the Department of Energy, Ms. Janeline Marasigan and Ms. Luningning Baltasar, both from the DOE EPIMB Power Market Development Division. We also have Mr. and Attorney Eileen of the Securities and Exchange Commission. For the Bureau of Internal Energy Regulatory Commission.
Secretariat, I think, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Is it coming out choppy in your end to our resource persons? Yes? Please check your connection.
Choppy po, ma'am. Choppy.
No.
Choppy, di ba? Comsec, I think your internet
Yes.
connection is slow. May we ask somebody from the committee to continue? If maybe Attorney Regine, are you present? Okay, we will just continue with the acknowledgement of our resource persons as we go along. Anyway, this is being recorded, so we see those who are actually present here for the record, so that we can continue now with our hearing without further delay. Maybe I can ask if the senators present are amenable to that. Can we just continue with the hearing because the secretary is having a problem recognizing our resource persons? Senator Drilon, are you okay?
Sorry, ma'am, I was not listening. What was your question?
No, the secretariat is having a difficult time connecting. So instead of identifying our resource persons, anyway, this is being recorded. We'll just go ahead with our questioning and presentation, and we'll just identify them as we go along with this hearing.
Yes, ma'am, whatever is convenient. I'm willing to go along.
Okay, thank you. May I begin now with the presentation of, let me see the list that I have here. Maybe the presentation of Congressman Biron. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Congressman Biron, 4th District in Iloilo, and then after which, Pavia Iloilo Councilor Fajardo. So, Congressman Biron, are you present, sir? I guess Congressman Biron is not present yet. Do we have Councilor Fajardo of Pavia?
Good morning and thank you, Madam Chair, Honorable Senator Grace po.
Mayong aga.
Committee Chair on Public Services, and also kay Senator Frank Rilon, kay Senator Weng Gatchalian, and kay Senator Mig Subiri. Nakita ko rin kay Senator Amy Marcos, and to all the invited guests, may ayat gid nga aga kaninyo nga tanan. It is with great honor and privilege to be one of the resource persons and to represent my town, the municipality of Pabia, in this public hearing. So, last August 31, 2021, at the regular session of the Sangguniang Bayan of Pabia, I delivered my privileged speech recommending to pass a resolution exploring possibilities of cheaper electricity for the municipality of Pabia. As I have said, Electricity is a prime commodity. All of us live with it. The decrease of its cost has a direct impact to the lives of our constituents, both residents and stakeholders. It was July 2021 when I compared my electricity bills in Iloilo City and Pabia. How come the rate of electricity in Iloilo City was reduced from 10 per kilowatt hour to 6.45 per kilowatt hour. And as of December 2021 billing, Iloilo City enjoys 6.65 per kilowatt hour, while Pabia is high at 12.71 per kilowatt hour. Why is it that more electric and power corporation in just over a year of operation can supply affordable or cheaper electricity to their consumers in Iloilo City? The people of Pabia deserve to enjoy the same too, especially in this time of COVID-19 pandemic. That is the reason why I made recommendations that we have to start looking into the possibility that Pabia, which is adjacent to Iloilo City, can be made part of the franchise area of More Power. I do believe that it is our duty to provide our stakeholders cheaper power supply to help them grow their businesses, and this will hopefully translate to more investors, jobs, and taxes. It will certainly be a big relief too to the consumers in this time of COVID-19 pandemic. On the same day, a resolution was passed by Councilor Jose Maria Timanias and was unanimously approved by the Pabia Sangguniang Bayan, a resolution requesting Congressman Michael Goraceta to open the franchise to operate another power distribution utility like More Power Corporation, which can give a lower kilowatt rate and efficient customer service to Pabianhons. With this, I am grateful for the immediate action and support of Honorable Michael Goraceta of the 2nd District of Iloilo and Honorable Congresswoman Jamjam Baronda of the Lone District of Iloilo City, and also Congressman Viron of Iloilo 4th District, and to all the members of the Committee on Public Services. So, Madam Mugit nga salamat, Madam Chair, and God bless us all. Thank you.
Damogid salamat. Itong nabanggit ninyo, what you mentioned, in just the neighboring town of Pavia, parang ang cost ng electricity is 100% more, di ba? Kasi kung 6 pesos sinasabi niya yung average doon sa Iloilo City per kilowatt hour, doon sa katabi lang, malapit, 12 pesos. Di ba?
Madam Chair.
Okay, well, that's something quite significant. Syempre, if you are living in an area that's close by, sinasabi mo, bakit doon mas mura? Dito lang sa amin mas mahal. So kung gusto namin magpatayo ng negosyo, ayaw namin dito sa mas mahal na kuryente, di ba? So that really has an overreaching impact. Now, Senator Drilon is recognized. Sir, you're still muted.
I'll have some input which can probably answer part of the question of the chair. The reason why More has now a lower power cost is that they rescinded and they did no longer honor the exclusive power agreement that PECO had with Panay Power, which which had very high rates, and since More was not legally obligated to honor that exclusive power agreement with Panay Power, they now source the energy requirements from WESM. And of course, it depends on the spot market. Today, the spot market probably is in favor or really shows a much lower cost. But it can be affected by variables, including, for example, recently, Madam Chair, the accident that happened which resulted in the cutting of the transmission lines because of an accident done by the DPWH contractor. This can affect the prices, but basically the explanation for the lower cost is the non-renewal by more of the exclusive power agreement between PECO and Panay Power. Thank you, Madam Chair. I know this quite well because we monitored this and we made sure that this legal situation can be resolved in favor of the consumers because of the very high cost of the exclusive power agreement. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you for the clarification, Senator Drilon. Of course, what will come to mind is the sanctity of contracts. But as we've seen, even in this administration, they always, well, they say in the guise of having a disadvantageous agreement. I think in this case, we can probably see that. But in other cases, I think it's just more an excuse. But anyway, that's another issue. Maybe we can ask now the representative from the opposing camp. Maybe we can have a representative from current power distributors, ILECO 1, 2, and 3. Do we have a representative from ILECO? Meron ba dito from ILECO? Okay, wala. Phil Reca.
Ma'am, good morning, ma'am. Ileco 2.
ILECO 2. Okay, Mr. Roquios, kayo po ba yan?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Madam Chair.
Okay, please identify yourself kasi hindi natawag kanina ng committee secretariat. And if you have any position with regards to this issue.
Yes, ma'am. I am the General Manager of Ileco 2 and I will be the one to speak in behalf of Ileco 1 and Ileco 3 also. So again, good morning also to other senators, Senator Drilon, Senator Win, Senator Marcos, and Senator Soberi, and to all present in this Zoom conference. So may I share screen?
Yes, go ahead if you have a screen. Secretariat, please allow them to share their presentation. There you go.
Okay. So Ileco 1, Ileco 2, and Ileco 3 opposes the passage of the House Bill number 10306, an act amending Section 1, 15, and 21 of Republic Act number 11212 on the following reasons. The town, city, and areas applied by more are presently being served by Ileco 1, Ileco 2, and Ileco 3, being the existing franchise holders. The said House Bill violates the RA 9136 or IPERA law, which mandates that existing franchises of the electric cooperatives shall be allowed to their full term. These are the towns and cities affected by the House Bill of more power. Out of 15 municipalities in Ileco 1, 6 is affected. For Ileco 2, out of 15, 8 are affected, 7 municipalities and 1 city. For Ileco 3, out of the 13, 2 was affected. So removing these towns and city from the present areas being served by Ileco 1, Ileco 2, and Ileco 3 will reduce our revenues and prevent us to comply with our contracts with existing power suppliers, and will also result to a higher rates to our remaining consumers. It will also result to overstaffing since we are expected to serve all these towns and city and we hired those employees. It would be also unfair to our remaining consumers to continue paying for the amortization of loans and lease for the improvement of facilities that will be taken away in the affected areas stated in the House bill. Since we have been operating for more than 30 years, there are common equipment and facilities that serves both the remaining and affected consumers. If taken immediately and unconditionally, it will result to technical complication like prolonged power interruptions. The main reason of passing this House bill is because of more power, low electricity rates being enjoyed by consumers in Iloilo City and will be extended to the province through this bill. The said rate is only temporary and is not the true cost of power. So I am presenting the comparative rates of residential for the year 2021. For the first half of the year, where we have this almost the same source of power or power supplier supplying us. So these are the rate, no? Eleco 2 and Eleco 3 is much lower than the rates of more power, while Eleco 1 is somewhat a little higher. But the problem started last July, as mentioned by Honorable Senator Drilon, that there is an incident that increased the cost of electricity, particularly the wholesale electricity market that increased the per kilowatt hour of electricity. But that was already solved and mitigated. So nag-increase ang rates namin and yung more naman, it happens na nag-start na rin yung contract niya with the PISAM, no? As you can see, very drastic yung reduction ng rates ng more power starting July 2021. So more power low rates starting July 2021 were the result of sourcing temporarily all power requirements from PISAM, which has a subsidized generation cost and about 4 to 5 pesos per kilowatt hour lower than the commercial power plants. Additional discount of 30 centavos per kilowatt hour as per Power Act reduction further lower the rates. This is only up to July 25, 2022, and the true cost will be reflected afterwards. But for the wheeling rates being charged by the utility, we can see here the comparative distribution, supply, and metering. So Eleco 1 and 2 have the same DSM 1.61 and Eleco 3 has much lower 1.46. So this is much lower than the DSM of more 1 pesos and 75 centavos, no? Supposed to be they are serving a compact and dense area. So supposed to be they have a lower DSM, but the co-op is much lower. So we suggest that legislative action should focus on the generation charge and not to the distribution charge, because we in Eleco 2 are performing well compared with the other DUs. Lalo na ngayon na tumaas yung mga cost of fossil fuel na nagpa-increase also ng cost of electricity. So we therefore request our honorable senators to conduct further due diligence on the comparative rates of comparative rates of more power and elecos. We suggest to wait after all parties started implementing their bilateral contract with the respective power suppliers, which will determine our rates for the next 5 to 10 years, which is important information for investors and businessmen. Hindi naman pwede yung temporary rates i-capitalize na natin only to find out na after September tumaas na naman, no? So this is very the right information is very important for a businessman in their risk management. After that, we could have a reliable data to compare who has a competitive rates. As of now, yung more bago, yung rates nila is only temporary, and they are lucky, the customers in Iloilo City are lucky na nakakuha sila sa PISAM, but that is only temporary. So being a non-stock, non-profit, Eleco 1, Eleco 2, and Eleco 3 are government partners in rural development through rural electrification and must be protected against unnecessary takeover by private corporation. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Roquios. This is quite interesting what you pointed out that coming July 2022, the rates will possibly change. So maybe I would like to ask representative of More Power to respond to your presentation. Do we have somebody from More who can clarify these issues that were brought about?
Yes, ma'am.
That were brought out.
Yes, ma'am. Honorable Chairperson,
Mr.
Senator
Castro,
Grace po.
yes.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning po. I have a short statement, ma'am, and I would be, and that is, the point raised by the previous resource person will be tackled, ma'am, in what I will be presenting. No. So let me start by, Honorable Chairperson Senator Grace po, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Senator Franklin Drilon, Senator Amy Marcos, and Senator Mizubiri, the officers and staff of Senate, resource person, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am Roel Castro, the President and CEO of More Electric and Power Corporation, or More Power. Together with my colleagues, we are here as resource persons for this public hearing on House Bill 10306, which is basically the expansion of the franchise area of More Power in 2 congressional districts of Iloilo Province. I would like to say that this bill started because of the public clamor from the residents and businesses in the adjacent and nearby areas of More Power's franchise area in Iloilo City. I remember when More Power started to drop its electricity rates by almost 35% in July, there were instantaneous reactions from More Power consumers. We got many inquiries, and apparently this rate reduction has taken the attention of consumers of adjacent areas. We have to take note that many individuals who are working in the city and residing outside of the city or vice versa, one way or another, they have felt and have seen from their statement of accounts the significant difference in the electricity rate between More Power and the other DUs. With the clamor of the consumers for More Power to extend its services to the adjacent and nearby areas, we know that their respective representatives made representation in Congress, and I also learned that several municipalities passed resolutions asking the representatives to ask More Power to extend its services, and I think that's how House Bill 10306 came to life. Should the Congress grant More Power the expansion of its franchise areas to these 2 congressional districts covering 15 municipalities and 1 city, I would like to assure this august body that more power has the capability to meet and fulfill the obligations that may be contained in the franchise. By virtue of RA 11212, or the More Power franchise, we started operations in Iloilo City in February 28-29, 2020. This was after the court awarded More Power the writ of possession to the electric distribution assets of the former DU. From that time to the recent, I would like to summarize the following accomplishments very quickly, now to highlight our capability to operate in the franchise area. One, systems loss. From a high of 23.31% at the time we took over, it is now down to 7.15% in November, and that is a reduction of 16.14% in less than 2 years. On system reliability, specifically on the SIFI or the frequency, we were able to bring it down by 28%, and on the duration, we were able to bring it down by 29%. On the number of accounts, from the time that we took over, it was 63,217, and as of December 2021, we have 84,899 customers, or an increase of 21,682 in less than 2 years, or 34% new accounts. While meters replaced 21,000, distribution transformers installed and replaced 500, so forth and so on. We now have a communication system, one substation that is on SCADA capability that can be operated remotely. This year, we will have 3 substations on automated platform. Capacities, we increased by 10 MVA last year, and for this year, we will have 2 new 30 MVA substations and 1 mobile, additional mobile substation. On the rates, the average electricity rate for
I'm sorry,
residential...
sir, Mr. Castro,
Yes,
would you please give us a moment? Senator Dulon is raising his hand. Go ahead, sir, Senator Dulon.
Ma'am, may I request the representative of MORE to address the specific issues raised by the cooperatives representative? We are fully, I'm from where I sit, Madam Chair. I am convinced of the efficiency of MORE, but whether or not that has nothing to do with the issues raised by the ILECO, particularly the effect on their operations, the legality of another distributor under the PIRA law, the issue of very important from the consumers end, Madam Chair, is it true that on July 25, 2022, the rates will go up again? May I request Mr. Castro to go directly to these issues, because we don't have that much time. I think that from my end, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Senator.
Go ahead. Those are the 3 issues raised: the legality of having another entity, and then the July 2022 increase in cost prices, and then number 3 is also how it will affect ILECO and their ability to provide service.
Yes, ma'am. On the legality, I will ask my colleague, Attorney Benny Tan, to answer that, ma'am. But let me tackle the issue on the rate that was raised. It may be true, it is true that our PISAM contract will actually, we will more or less end by July of this year. And that is true on what the resource person said, that there will be the rates may change. However, this is what I would like to explain to the body. Now, we already conducted the competitive selection process, or the CSP, which is contained in our franchise in RA 11212. And from the competitive selection process that we finished last year, the levelized cost of energy of 2 power plants that actually won in the bidding is even lower than the rate of PISAM right now. Now, the levelized cost of energy that Semirara Calaca and KEPCO, whom we awarded the 40 megawatts for the base load, now is less than 3 pesos per kilowatt hour. Now, and if we actually use that levelized cost of electricity to the present rate of coal, because it is coal-based, it actually would equate more or less to the same rate of the PISAM rate right now. No? So it is true that PISAM contracts may end by July of this year, but what is not known to them, but this is already public because it went through the CSP, the levelized cost of energy, wherein we awarded the contracts to, are less than 3 pesos per kilowatt hour, ma'am. So though it will change, but it will be within the range of the rate that we have right now. And what is the implication of that to the rates of the other DUs? Our levelized cost of energy is already very low at 3 pesos or less than 3. What I know is that the levelized cost of energy of the other DUs are actually way above. So even if the rate of coal and the and oil will go up, which everybody will be affected, we will always be on the lowest end of the increase. No, because it will have the same intensity of increase, but we will be on the lowest on the bottom of those increases because our levelized cost of energy that we awarded the CSP contracts to are less than 3 pesos, Madam Chair. So that is my explanation on the rate. And ma'am, if you may po, may we call on Attorney Benny Tan, who is the Director of More Power, to explain and answer on the legality, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. Before we go to Attorney Tan, just to clarify, what you're saying is, well, barring any world surge in coal prices, which is unlikely to be that drastic, and anyway, everybody will be affected at that point, your costs will still be lower comparatively. So
Yes,
mababa pa rin. Bakit?
Categorically,
Okay.
Categorically, ma'am, I can say yes, because when it was bid out, the levelized cost of energy, no, or the index, no, of the contracts that we signed is the lowest compared to the others.
Okay, you're getting
so our starting point and their start.
Okay, you're
Yes,
getting your power from, did you say Semirara?
Yes, ma'am.
Who is supplying?
Calaca,
What company is supplying? What
Semirara Calaca, ma'am, is well, that is their power generating company, but I know that their source of power is coming from their Semirara mines in Antique, ma'am.
Okay, so my question is, why can't Ileco avail of the same? Is it because they're tied to a contract with another power supplier?
Yes, ma'am. I think it has something to do with the contract, no? And the well, I would say the important aspect in that contract is the levelized cost of energy, no? Because that is the comparative number that we can compare, no? With all the other well, if to compare contracts, I think it is the LCOE, or the levelized cost of energy, that should be the basis, not to say if your power contract is lower or higher.
Okay, Attorney Tan, go ahead with the legal explanation and justification.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the issue of legality, the basis is the provision in the ITIRA defining the term distribution utility, that's in section 4Q, and then the definition of franchise area, that's section 4W of IPIRIA, which says that they are exclusive. But we are saying, Madam Chair, that it goes against the Constitution. I mean, Section 11 of Article 12 of the 1987 Constitution, which provides that no franchise for operation of public utility shall be granted except to Filipino citizens, nor shall such franchise be exclusive in character. So that description of a franchise area as being exclusive is against the Constitution. Even our own franchise, Madam Chair, RA 11212, has a non-exclusivity provision. So even IPIRA itself is replete with principles allowing for competition. So under IPIRA, it is not just a matter of providing electricity. Electricity must be reliable and must be at least cost. So that is our response on the issue of exclusivity, on legality, Madam Chair.
How would you address the question that was brought up by ILECO, that under IPIRA, these cooperatives may continue providing, that their contracts will continually be honored?
Madam Chair, the existence of the electric cooperatives will continue. The proposal allowing competition from more does not affect their existence. They're allowed to continue, Your Honor. It will allow healthy competition between the electric cooperatives and more in the area that there may be an overlap over.
Okay, I would like to maybe ask Senator Win Gatchalian, who's more of an expert. As you know, the public services tackles so many different concerns, but this is very specialized. And maybe Senator Win Gatchalian can weigh in on this. Who should we ask next? Senator Win, ERC?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah,
I'm not an expert. I'm only, may mga alam lang tayo, but I'm not an expert. Madam Chair, I would recommend, of course, ERC, and then I can see Philreca, who is the Association of All Electric Cooperatives, is also here. But ERC will be a very important resource person because there are unintended consequences to this franchise, and they might explain those consequences, Madam Chair.
Okay, as this were suggested by Senator Win, may we have the representative of the ERC to comment on the discussions that we've had so far? ERC?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Senators. And good morning to everyone. With respect to the simulation
please,
of the...
Attorney,
Yes,
please identify yourself because we weren't able to call each and everyone earlier.
Oh, yes, yes, Madam Chair. My name is Attorney Maria Corazon Ines. I'm the Director of the Legal Service. With me right now is the Division Chief of our Regulatory Operations Service, Ms. Leila Sirio, who will make the presentation for us with respect to the rate impact on the proposed legislation. So if you will allow Ms. Sirio to make the presentation, Your Honors.
Yes, please go ahead, Ms. Sirio. Secretary, please allow them to feed their presentation. Secretariat.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I cannot just see I cannot share my presentation. I cannot see the.
You're already allowed. Please try.
I cannot see the button for the uploading of the presentation.
Okay. If I may, Madam Chair, Leila, I can share the
Yes, yes.
presentation. I can share the. Okay. Let me just.
Hindi mo yata makita yung sharing button.
Yeah,
Ito na. Attorney Hines, go ahead and do it, please.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay. Your Honors, is it visible already?
Yes, now it is.
Okay, can you move it upwards? Okay, so good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. The ERC has endeavored to make simulation of the rate impact of this proposed bill, and what we did is to determine what will be the effect on the existing rates or the 2020 rates of the ILECO distribution utilities with if it will coexist with more for some specific areas. Okay, so here is the simulation of the rate impact, and as you will see, under the proposed bill, the cover for ILECO 1 under the proposed bill will affect 40% of the current sales of ILECO 1. So based on that, we determined what will be the effect if 50% of the said affected areas will move to more, and if 100% of these consumers will also, of the affected areas will also move to more. So for the 50% of ILECO 1, if 20% will move to more because it's 50% of 40%, then the result will be an increase. As you can see on the screen, there will be an increase, or the estimated increase of about 18% in their current generation rate. For the DSM rate, there is an expected increase of 25%. For the RFSC rate being charged by the distribution utility, there's also an increase of 25%. Okay, so now at 100%, if 100% of consumers in ILECO's affected areas will move to more, then there will be a higher impact or higher increase in the rates for the generation, distribution, DSM, and RFSC, which is around, on the average is 59% of the total rate. So ito po yung nakikita naming impact for ILECO 1. Okay, and then we go to ILECO 2 and more. Actually, under the proposed bill, the coverage area that will be affected will be 55% of the current sales of ILECO 2. So if 50% of these consumers or 50% of the billed volume will be moved to more, then these are the following impact. So there is an estimated increase of around 7% in generation, around 38% in the distribution, supply, and metering charges, and around 38% in the RFSC charge. Okay, and then if 100% or the 55% of the current sales of ILECO will move to more, then there will be a higher impact. And it is expected under the generation that there will be a 72% increase in the generation.
Okay, ma'am,
Yes.
Miss Sirio.
Yes,
We're
ma'am.
looking at the numbers here, but the long and short of it is what you're saying. If more is
There will be
allowed to come in,
Yeah.
then the other customers of Ileco 1, 2, and 3 will be affected because their market, I guess their customer base, Ileco's customer base, will shrink. Therefore, their costs will increase. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, we are at a quandary here because what we want to provide is better service and more affordable, more efficient. So for the people that will be absorbed by more, that's exactly their outcry. They want the cheaper power, the better service. But those that are being provided by Ileco that will not be absorbed by more, they will bear the brunt of this possible change. Now, are we supposed to hamper the possible improvement in service and cost for the other half of the population just so we can keep costs lower for the other group that is being provided power by Ileco? That's now the dilemma, right? That's now the moral dilemma. Pipigilin ba natin na mas maging maganda yung serbisyo ng mga ibang masasakupan dahil maapektuhan naman ang kabilang grupo na hindi masasama dito sa more. So paano ngayon yan? In your personal opinion, I guess also in the spirit of EPIRA, which encourages competition, what should be the position now? May we ask, maybe, unless you have another topic, but I think I'd like to ask the Department of Energy and also the Philippine Competition Commission to weigh in on this dilemma.
Ma'am,
Senator Julon is recognized.
Just before we leave this shared screen, when we say under the proposed bill, the coverage area will affect 55% of the current shares of Ileco 2. This you are looking at it from the point of view of Ileco 2's viability. Is that correct? Not from the interest of the public. Tama ba yun? Kasi sinasabi mo dito will affect 55% of Ileco 2 shares. 50% of Ileco's 2 affected areas will move to more. So talagang it will affect the operations of the cooperative because the customers will move to more. Tama po ba yun?
Yes, sir. Actually po, because there will be 8 areas or 8 municipalities that will be affected in Ileco 2. And that means if the customers will move to more, then there will be a corresponding decrease in the kilowatt-hour sales that would.
But if, for example, for example, if Ileco 2 can compete with the rates and the efficiency of more, would you think that the customers will move to more or will stay with the cooperative? I'm asking a question from a layman's point of view. Kung ang rates po ng kooperatiba at ang serbisyo ng kooperatiba ay katumbas lang ng more, lilipat ba ang mga customer?
Sa tingin ko, hindi naman po. Hindi po.
Ha? Hindi?
Hindi po. So, ang nakikita ko po dito is it's the price that is being, that makes the customer want to choose for another distribution utility. Pero po, ang sinasabi lang po dito, yung 55% na lilipat, ang mangyayari, what will be affected will be the remaining na, kasi po, in order for them, for Ileco 2 to be viable and be able to still provide the necessary service to its remaining customers, then it means an increase in the rates. So, kailangan pong itaas ang presyo kasi po meron po tayong tinatawag dito na revenue requirement. So ito po ang pangangailangan ng buong distribution utility para po, ito po ang kanyang pangangailangan at ito po ang dapat mabayaran ng mga customers supposedly with the corresponding kilowatt hour sales. Kasi po, di ba, parang kung ito yung cost, it will be divided by the total billing determinant or the kilowatt hour sales of the customers in that franchise area. So, if that is the case, at mag-move po sa more yung customers with the corresponding kilowatt hour sales, so liliit po ang base or the billing determinant that will be the basis for the computation of the rate. So in effect, dahil lumiit yung...
Why will the base be reduced? Why will there be a reduction in the base?
Yes, Senator. Kasi po, di ba sinabi natin na kung magkakaroon ng competition or mag-move nga yung 50% of the affected customers to more, syempre po, may corresponding kilowatt hour sales po sila na dadalhin with them. And that will be the basis for the calculation of the rate. So, yung remaining na lang po na customers and its corresponding...
In other words, ma'am, what you're saying is, if presented with a more competitive service and a better service and a more competitive rate, you estimate that 50% of the cooperative consumers will migrate to more, and the remaining 50% would have to pay higher charges to the cooperative because their coverage will in effect be reduced by 50%. That's what you're saying, ma'am.
Yes, sir. So that's what will happen. So kaya po ganun yung computation.
So I don't know, ma'am, where the public interest comes in here. Who do we? It's really a question, a policy question that must be confronted. So here is the explanation. If 50%, if the more will come in, they estimate that 50% of the customers of the cooperative will move to more. The remaining 50% will have to shoulder the cost of the capital outlay for the whole of the franchise area of Ileco. So it's again a policy question, ma'am. Thank you very much to the ERC, ma'am, for that clarification.
Yes, Senator Dulon, this is almost like a natural selection process wherein those that are more adapted will survive. Obviously, as times change, technology improves. If you don't keep up with the times, you'll really be left behind. And the interests of the public should always be our guiding principle as to whether or not something is viable. Otherwise, we're just stuck with legality. Yeah. It goes against the principle of providing better service.
Just one more question, ma'am. Just one more question. How much do you estimate to be how much would you estimate to be the need of a particular cooperative, in this particular case, Ileco 2? What kind of capital expense would they have to put in order to effectively compete with more and have a better rate and a better distribution service? Would you have that figure?
Sir, we don't have that figure. Yeah, because we don't have information on that. But ang sinasabi lang po natin dito is that the ERC has determined the revenue requirement that would allow the distribution utilities to operate viably and provide the needed services of its customers. So kaya nga po, di ba, kung ang makikita lang po natin dito is kung habang lumiliit ang base po, tumataas ang presyo. Kasi po, meron tayong revenue requirement that should be covered through the rates of the customers. So, kung liliit po yung base natin at papaliitin, kaya nga po pag sinabing distribution utilities, dapat may economies of scale because it's capital intensive, and that the higher the billing determinants or the higher the customers in a specific franchise area would be better for them. Yes, sir. Yun po yung
I'm sorry. Before I recognize Senator Win, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Congresswoman Jam Baronda. Senator Win, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Madam Chair, that's what I mentioned earlier. No, in the quest to deliver cheap rates, there are also unintended consequences, especially in giving a franchise over another franchise. Because the nature of this business is really plain and simple economies of scale. No, it's a very capital-intensive business. They have to put substations, transformers, lines, and they need to recoup those by spreading the cost to as many customers as possible. So the nature of a distribution business and also a transmission business is really economies of scale. And once you allow another entity operating in a franchise area, in effect, you lower down the number of customers that you can spread the cost to. And the ones that will be left behind, as we can see, will experience as high as 59% increase in their electricity rates. So these are the things that we need to study very carefully because of the unintended consequence. But Madam Chair, I would like to ask more, the representative of more, because by looking at the data, in terms of the distribution performance, the three elecos and more are actually performing well, in terms of distribution, meaning they have very low brownouts, they have very low system loss, their collection efficiency is very high. In fact, the three elecos are AAA. That's the highest rating that you can get for any electric cooperative. However, Madam Chair, nagkakatalo sa generation. And this is where the problem actually comes in, because obviously MORE has purchased a much cheaper generation rate compared to Eleco. Almost half. Actually, like you said, 100%. Three in my records is about 3 pesos. About 370 pesos for more in terms of generation. And then for the other Eleco, on the average, is about 6 pesos. So about 100% difference. And the reason for that, Madam Chair, is MORE has managed to lock in a temporary contract with PISAM. And there's only one supplier, PISAM, which will expire this coming year of July. So I want to ask MORE, obviously the attractiveness of this franchise is that low generation rate. But how low, what is the guarantee that they can sustain the low generation rate for a long time? Because PISAM contract will expire this July. They have to contract new power rates. And from what Senator Drilon mentioned earlier about the damage that was experienced by the co-ops last July, that became a turning point in terms of electricity rates. So my question to MORE, I think to engineer, is how after July, what is the assurance that rates will generation continuously to be low for the next years to come? Because that is the attractiveness of this franchise. So I want to ask more about the sustainability of low rates after PISAM.
Honorable Chair, may I answer that?
Go ahead, Mr. Castro.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Senator Win. Yes, actually, the assurance that we will have, we will have one of the lowest rates is because of the result of the CSP that we already conducted, and we already actually awarded now 40 megawatts of the whole, no? And we are actually holding another CSP, what do you call this? Well, well, we're holding another CSP, no, for the rest, no. Now, the assurance that I can give is that, again, I go back to the result of the CSP when we bidded out the 40 megawatts base load. Now, the levelized cost of energy, Senator Win, now was actually below 3 pesos, no, below 3 pesos per kilowatt hour. Now, and that is the index, that is the index, no, that we are starting from, as compared to the levelized cost of electricity of the others, no, which may be at least from my knowledge, no, others are actually having about 5 pesos. No, so from that alone, you would see that there is already a 2 peso difference, no, from the index, from the indexing. So if, let's say, the coal prices go up, of course, all of us would go up, but we will always have, we will still stay at the bottom or at the lowest because of the levelized cost of electricity as a result of the CSP. Now that brought our price to less than 3 pesos per kilowatt hour, Senator Win. No, and that is the same process, no, that we will be using in the coming CSPs. Not to make sure that we will get and we will be able to access the lowest rate, even if even if some is no longer there, Senator.
I understand that your requirement is about 90 something megawatts. Is that correct?
For now, we're hitting a peak of about 108 megawatts, Senator.
So for the remaining, you've contracted 40, the remaining is 60. And I would assume some of those will be the peaking, which is the more expensive. What will be, I'll put this very simply and so that an ordinary person will appreciate this. For the next 10 years, from this year, the next 10 years, and you will have to bid out your remaining 60 megawatt requirement. What is your projection in terms of cost per kilowatt? What will be your projection per cost per kilowatt hour for the next 10 years? No, including everything nito, all your requirement.
Well, I think at this point, Senator Win, we are doing the simulation because the prices the last 2-3 months has really been very, I would say, very volatile. No, and I think these prices for the long term, it's not going to be sustainable. No, and that is why in the CSP, that we are conducting. In fact, the second round of CSP has already been approved by the DOE, which we will be putting out very soon. Now is we are trying to how should I say it, protect the price from these spikes. So if you ask me, if we just go back to the level of prices, let's say pre-pandemic. Now, where we are looking at the price of a generation rate of should be hovering between 3 pesos to 4 pesos, Senator Gatchalian.
3 to 4 pesos per kilowatt hour for the next 10 years.
On a pre-pandemic price, no? Because as I was saying. Yeah, as I was saying, I mean, the last 3-4 months, has really been very volatile, and I don't think that would that would be for the long term.
So, in other words, once we go back to pre-pandemic levels, you can assure the consumers that your price per kilowatt hour on generation will be between 3 to 4 pesos for the next 10 years.
Yes, Senator. And let me just make one caveat for that. No, our CSP, no, the 40 megawatts CSP, wherein the price actually was about 2 pesos 77 centavos per kilowatt hour, is based on a between 90 to 100 dollar per ton on the Newcastle. No, so that was the price of Newcastle coal pre-pandemic. As we know right now, it is running double, about 180, 190. So if we go back to the pre-pandemic price, wherein coal will be between 80 to 90 dollars between 90 to 100 dollars per ton, our cost should be about 2 pesos, between 2 pesos 77 to 3 pesos per kilowatt hour.
Okay, so even lower what you're saying.
Yes,
Yes,
Senator Win,
yes, Senator.
if I may weigh in, I guess coming again from a layman's point of view, obviously if there's more demand after the economy of the world will go back to the normal pace that it had before the pandemic, there will be, I guess it might even go lower. But having said that, even if it goes high drastically, everybody will be affected already. And that's more like a worst case scenario that will throw not just Iloilo or other service areas, but the entire economy of the world if, let's say, the price per barrel doubles. So that's really the worst case scenario that we're looking at, which is beyond the control of any distributor. So I guess that's where what we're trying to establish here, that yes, we're trying to figure out a realistic pricing for next year, but should we come to the point when it becomes double the price that it is now, everybody will certainly be affected. And it's not because we granted a franchise or not to more. Okay, so any other questions, Senator Win?
I'll reserve it for later on, Madam Chair, to the other resource persons. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Drilon is recognized.
With your indulgence, ma'am, I would like to raise a few legal issues to the representative of MORE because of the allegations, if with your permission. Yes,
yes, go ahead, please. Thank you, Senator Drilon.
May I have the lawyer of MORE? Whoever is there?
I think it's Attorney Tan. Are you still with us?
Attorney Tan, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So on the first allegation on the first position of the cooperatives, it is asserted that the EPIRA law allows the co-ops to serve their full term. Is it your position here that that the passage of this proposed amendment to the MORE franchise will not result in the shortening of the life of the franchise life of the cooperatives? Is that correct?
Yes, Senator, because they will continue to exist and operate.
Yeah. All right. Now, I have a few questions on the proposed amendments to Section 15. If we can, ma'am, refer to Section 15. It says the limitations set forth in Section 15, which basically says that any transfer should have the permission of Congress. Let me read that for clarity. Section 15 says the grantee shall not sell, lease, transfer, grant the use of or nor assign this franchise or the rights and privileges acquired thereunder to any person, firm, company, corporation, etc., nor merge with any other corporation or entity, nor self-transfer the controlling interest of the grantee, whether as a whole or in part, and whether simultaneously or contemporaneously to any person, firm, company, or entity without the prior approval of Congress of the Philippines. Now, your first amendment is you're saying that the limitation set forth in this section shall not apply to transfers of shares of stock in the implementation of the requirement of the dispersal of the grantee's ownership pursuant to Section 16. Okay. Any transfer or sale of shares of stock to a foreign or local investor who will not participate in the management of the grantee. Is this subject to the constitutional provision on nationality that 60% must remain with the 60% of the equity must be in Filipino hands? Do you confirm that?
Yes, Senator. Yes, Senator. It's provided at the bottom of this paragraph, provided finally that such transfer, sale, or issuance is in accordance with any applicable constitutional limitations.
In other words, what is being dispensed with in letter B is the concurrence of Congress. So what?
Because this is an exception, Your Honor. Yes.
Yes. So any transfer, so long as it is within, so long as the 60-40 equity distribution is not disturbed, should not have, does not need the concurrence of Congress. Is that what we're saying?
Only if they fall under these exceptions, Your Honor.
No, we're trying to clarify. Suppose right now the equity distribution is 80-20 in favor of Filipinos. 20% is sold to a foreigner so that it becomes 60-40. Would the transfer of the 20% require congressional approval?
In your example, Senator, majority 60, at least 60 is still in the hands of Filipinos. So yes, the transfer of 20, which is foreign, will still comply with the constitutional limitation, Your Honor.
Now, suppose it is beyond, suppose it is 51% now foreign equity, but the management stays with the original grantee. Does that comply with the Constitution and does that need congressional approval? Because you have stated here that so long as management remains with the original grantee, no congressional approval is necessary. Are you saying that you can transfer, in that example, 51% to the foreign stockholder, so long as you maintain, you manage the company? That should not require a congressional franchise? That's first question. Number two, is that consistent with the constitutional requirement of 60% for Filipino or Filipino-owned equity?
No, Senator. The limitation at the bottom that all transfers must be in accordance with the constitutional limitation is superior to all of the transfer provisions.
Okay.
So if the transfer will result in more than, yes, Your Honor. So the 60% Filipino must be complied with.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, ma'am. That's important to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gilon. May we ask the Department of Energy to weigh in on our discussion here? After all, this is the head agency that manages all the other agencies that are also overseeing the implementation of this in case we approve it. Do we have a representative of the DOE? From the DOE? We don't have anybody from the DOE.
Good noon po, Senator.
Please identify yourself.
Yes po.
I'm Luningning
Enter-
Baltasar po from the Power Market Development Division.
Okay. What is your designation? Anong
I
position
am
po ninyo sa
Division
DOE?
Chief po of the Power Market Development Division. I'm the Division Chief po. Division Chief, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Miss Baltasar. Ano po
Yes,
yung opinion ninyo sa mga pinag-uusapan natin ngayon? Sang-ayon ba ang DOE dito sa panukala na ito?
Madam Chair, we have to weigh in our options, particularly that there will be two groups that will be affected. That would be the one transferring to the, if possible, to the more franchise areas, and the other one that will be left out to the ILECO franchise areas. So in that regard, we have to understand also what would be the impact as raised, presented earlier by concerned groups.
Okay, I'm not sure. How long have you been with the DOE?
Ma'am, I'm 20 years from the DOE.
20 years, okay. So in your 20 years in the DOE, nakita na ba kayo ng ganitong sitwasyon?
Actually, ma'am, this is the first time that we see this proposal.
Okay,
As per my experience.
how about the situation in Dagupan? I was made aware that there was actually this kind of situation in Dagupan wherein there were two providers, and then eventually the public had chosen the more efficient one. Are you familiar with that? I'm just looking through my notes here.
Yes, ma'am. My apologies, but I am not familiar with that situation.
Okay, well, let me go back to that. But okay, here. There are two other cases wherein franchises were given simultaneously in the same area, and the consumers eventually chose the better supplier. And this is in Dagupan City, which is Dagupan Power and Senpelco, and that's in San Fernando, La Union. So this already happened, apparently. Can we request the Department of Energy to submit to this committee a comprehensive report of what happened in Dagupan? When did this occur, and what was the resolution? What happened? How was this resolved? Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. I think we can also seek some clarification or information from NEA, because I understand there are other provinces that have separated the franchises, ma'am. So they are being served, for example, in the case of Novelco, I think there are areas that are being served by different electric cooperatives, even if those areas are covered only by or under one province or one political boundary.
Okay, thank you.
And
Nea?
in any case, we will comply po.
Yes, thank you. Nea, you're still present, right? Can you give us an example? Was there a situation like this in the past when there were two providers of the power distribution in one area? Are you Attorney Gabat?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Gabat? How do I pronounce your name? Gabat? Gabat,
Madam Chair.
Yeah,
Good
Attorney,
afternoon,
go
Madam
ahead.
Chair, Madam Chair, and to all the members of the Honorable Committee. With respect to the scenario being asked by the good chairperson, I have no personal knowledge about that, Your Honor. But with respect to the pending issue in this hearing, I would like to manifest, Your Honor, that the NEA, insofar as NEA is concerned, had already submitted its position paper with respect to the pending House bills to the office of the Honorable Senator Win Gatchalian last October 2021, and we will be adopting the same position paper, and we will be submitting it to the office of this Honorable Committee.
Okay,
I am also assisted by some of the officers of NEA, Your Honor. Maybe some of them could answer the scenario being raised by the good senator.
Okay, You mentioned that you submitted the position paper to the office of Senator Win Gatchalian. Can you give us a brief summary of that position paper? What is your position?
Well, in our position paper, Your Honor, it consists of 19 pages. We actually discussed and argued our position regarding the opposition with this pending House bills, Your Honors. In our recommendation, we allege, among others, that may I just read it, Your Honor? As advanced,
Yes, go ahead.
with all due respect to the authors of the House bills, the NEA is in opposition of the passage of the subject bills for the following reasons. ELECO 1, 2, and 3 were awarded as among top performing ECs. The overall performance assessment of ELECO 1, 2, and 3 have been categorized as AAA EC for the last 6 years. ELECO 1, 2, and 3 have partnered in the mission of the state to bring electricity to the countryside up to the remotest areas, having all sorts of challenges wherein no private utilities are willing to take. As the ECs are non-stock, non-profit, they are allowed to generate revenues sufficient only to cover payroll, operations, and maintenance outlays. As to the operational performance of ELECO 1, 2, and 3, they have been very satisfactory. As a result of operational performance assessment, they can provide quality, reliable, secured supply of electric power and most affordable rates to the member consumer owners. ELECO 1, 2, and 3 are committed in the empowerment of their respective MCOs as partners in achieving the mission of providing sustainable rural development through rural electrifications. In view of the foregoing, or in view of that, Your Honor, NEA supports and adopts the position of ELECO 1, 2, and 3 and the Philippine Rural Electric Cooperative Association in opposition to the proposed expansion of the franchise area of more. Thank you, Your Honor. We will be submitting this position paper to your office, Your Honor.
Okay, I understand also the sentiments of NEA. It's true that in the past, when the economy of the Philippines wasn't as expansive as it is now, there are very few private sector entities that are willing to take a risk in the electrification of the rural areas, of which ELECO has provided. Now, I would like to point out, how many years has ELECO held this franchise? 30 years, right? At least?
Your Honor, originally the franchises for these three ECs were issued or granted as early as 1979, and it has a lifespan of 50 years, Your Honor. So, based on our records, Your Honor, the franchise of these ECs would expire sometime 2028, 2053.
Huh? 2053?
Yes, Your Honor, or until 2053.
Bakit? Na-renew?
Yes, Your Honor. There were renewals there.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. So, the franchise will expire in 2053 yet. Now, you were mentioning, or somebody mentioned, it's a capital intensive when it comes to, of course, personnel, labor, ganyan. But we've seen in Moore's takeover in Iloilo City that they absorbed the employees of the other franchise. Am I correct?
Madam Chair, let me answer that.
Who's speaking?
Yes, Chair, we actually absorbed. Sorry, this is Roel Castro from More Power.
Oh yeah, go ahead. You absorbed.
To answer, yeah, we absorbed actually over 60 employees from the old DU to More Power.
Over 60, 60?
60, yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Ilan ba yung dati nilang employees, more or less?
Well, we really don't have that data, ma'am, because we're not privy to their data po. But when we took over, we opened it for we actually accepted applications from the old DU as contained in the franchise, and there were over 70 that applied, and we actually accepted over 60, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam
All
Chair.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nea. Are there Senator Win? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I have a few questions to ELECO 1, 2, and 3. As we all know, this is a generation charge issue. There's no problem with the distribution charge. There's no problem with the transmission charge. It's only the generation and the way they contracted their power supply. So I wanted to ask ELECO 1, 2, and 3 a direct question. How come the rates are much more expensive than more? No, 3 point more. It's about 3.7 pesos per kilowatt hour, and then for the Elecos, on the average, it's about 6 pesos. So how come it's more expensive? This is a basic question in the minds of all of our consumers.
Okay, Madam Chair. So, Honorable Senator Win, yung rates ng Electo ngayon, nagpa-conduct din kami ng CSP, no? Dahil meron kaming mga portion of our requirements na uncontracted. So hopefully makakuha din kami ng mas mura na generation, no, na i-blend din namin 'yon sa aming existing. What happened if you try to look yung rates namin from January to April, nasa 4 pesos lang naglalaro yung ano namin hanggang 5 pesos. Kaso lang nung may nasira yung yung generation, yung NGCP lines between Negros, at nagka-problema yung mga generating plant diyan sa Luzon na nag-result ng increase ng wisdom prices. Yun, tumaas yung average generation rate namin starting June up to October. Pero ngayon, we managed to mitigate that one. Nagkuha din kami ng mga short-term contract, a portion of our load. Ayun, yung sa Eleco 2 for January, yung residential rate namin is only 8.66 per kilowatt hour. And hopefully ma-maintain din namin ito for the rest of the months for the year 2022.
But GM is still very far from the 3.7.
Yes.
And from what Moore is claiming earlier, that even on a blended manner, ang pinakamataas nila is 4 pesos. Is still quite far, no? Yung 5 pesos ninyo. So, a 1 peso difference per kilowatt hour, napakalaking bagay ho yan, no? It's a huge difference. So, my question is, what can you do to lower this down, given a chance? And how fast can you lower this down? Because it's a question of contracting, no? So, how fast can you contract and lower down your electricity generation? And is that feasible in the next 6 months or 6 months to 1 year? No, is that feasible? Because on the other side, Moore is promising a 3 to 4 peso per kilowatt hour for the next few years. So that seems attractive. But ano ang pwedeng gawin ng mga Eleco, the 3 Elecos, to lower down and compete and assure the consumers that you can actually deliver the same or even lower price to your consumers in the next 6 months to 1 year?
That's really a good point. Sorry,
Yes.
Mr. Ruquios. That's a good point of Senator Gatchalian. Remember, there's no exclusivity here. More, even if they're given a franchise to operate, does not exclude you from continuing your operation. So now it's up to Ileco to source cheaper power so that you can compete. Diba? Yun dapat now. If you say no because the contracts are invaluable, we can't break these contracts. But there's such a thing as disadvantageous agreements, which I'm sure if you fought it in the courts, there might be some considerations given and some what do you call this? Some value given to your claim that you need to be able to provide cheaper power for the greater good of your customers. So that's where I'm saying you can come in. You can compete if your power supply, if your source of your power is actually cheaper also, the way More was able to get theirs. So, hindi ba pwede dun kayo naka-focus instead of trying to stop the entry of another provider, which will stifle competition? Hindi kaya pwedeng dun tayo nakatingin, Mr. Requios?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, we are doing that. No, meron kaming power supply planning. So, if ever na bababa yung market, we took advantage of that. No, na ina-expose namin yung load namin. At saka para ma-mitigate din later on pag in case na tumaas yung market, ongoing ngayon yung competitive selection process ng mga remaining uncontracted load namin, no? And usually ang result is we get low generation cost IPP, and it's always result to a lower blended cost na nagpapababa ng total rates ng Eleco 2.
Okay, Senator Julon was wanting to comment on something.
Yes, I guess that's the crux of the matter as brought out by Senator Win. In your presentation, you said the focus should be on generation charge. And Senator Win is taking you on that statement. Why can you not lower your generation charge? You said that you give us time, to implement our bilateral contracts with power suppliers, and you're asking that you be judged in 5 to 10 years. I'm sorry, but public interest would not allow such a long period of time, because it is to the public interest, particularly in Iloilo, that the power rates are reduced. And you're saying this is due to the generation charge. But to the questions of Senator Win, I do not get a satisfactory answer how the generation charge can be reduced. You're saying that it can be reduced to 8.66 per kilowatt hour. That's still more than double the generation charge being passed on by More to its customers. Bakit ganon? Why can you not
Okay,
yes,
sir, maybe we want to hear also from your engineer, Paguntalan. Engineer, Ileco 1, engineer. Baka naman you have another view on this. Ano to? This is from Engineer Paguntalan's presentation. Wala kaming marinig.
Hello.
Engineer, you have bad feedback going on, and now your mic is off. I think you better turn off whatever other radio signals you have there.
Okay na ba, Madam Chair?
Ayan, perfect. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Allow me to have a share screen, for everybody to see.
Okay.
We wanted to show and for everyone to appreciate our existing power supply. We have actually 5 suppliers, power suppliers. Our base load, the number one, the 2010-37 RC, which is supplied by Green Core, that is 18 mega. It has an average price of 5.71 pesos per kilowatt hour. This contract started March 26 of 2015 and would expire on December 25, 2025. So, mga 3 years pa from today. Yung isang kontrata din natin mayroon sa PEDC 1 and 2, may 3.5 mega siya at the rate of 6 pesos and 42 centavos. The contract, the power supply agreement started last April 26, 2011 and would expire on April 25, 2036. So that would be almost 14 years from now. Isa pa nating power suppliers yung PPC, Panay Power Corporation, may 8 mega siya at the rate of 1031. Ito kasi yung para sa peaking supply natin ng power, which started last February 5, 2006 and would expire on February 5, 2026 or 4 years from now. Isa rin nating supplier sa power is yung Pump Conception Power Corporation. May 6 mega siya at the rate of 749. Nag-start siya noong October 26, 2016 and would expire on October 25, 2031. So, mga 9 years from now. Yung isang base natin na load na sinusupply ng PEDC 3, 8 mega siya at the rate of 6 pesos and 42 centavos, which started last February 25, 2017 and would end on February 25, 2042. That is almost 20 years from now. Ito kasi yung mga kontrata na ito, this passed through DOE and RC. At saka approved ng ERC at DOE ito bago magkaroon tayo ng agreement sa mga power suppliers. Kaya ito yung naging scenario natin ngayon sa Eleco 1. We are constrained and sabi nga kanina ni Senator Franklin, which is we are very fortunate, came from Iloilo, na legally obligated kami to honor these contracts would expire later, long years from now. So, we are really constrained na i-honor ito at saka hindi namin pwedeng magkaroon ng ibaliwala itong mga kontrata. This really affects our rate actually, our blend dito sa Eleco 1. At saka ito, we wanted to show yung mga short-term and long-term strategy natin dito to reduce yung generation rate. Yung isa, we have negotiated for the repricing with power suppliers. We conducted this dialogue with our existing suppliers last November 2021. And I hope we can get a positive result. But then on the basis of the contract, I think it's really hard for them, no? Na talagang mag-reprice. Although there are other suppliers natin na nagkaroon ng provision sa contract for repricing every 5 years. But then ang iba, hindi siya nagkaroon ng gano'n na provisions. And secondly, we have to negotiate our emergency EPSA. This was conducted and completed last year, November 2021. We are waiting for the issuance of the certificate of exemption from ERC, and that would follow pag nagkaroon na kami ng COE, ang signing ng EPSA. And we also on the third, we will conduct a CSP in replacement of our existing 8 mega PPC diesel plant. Ito yung rate natin na 10 pesos 31 centavos. Diesel plant kaya yung price ng fuel, yun ang isang dapat i-factor in natin dito sa price na ito. May TOR na kami for evaluation ng board and approval. Hopefully matapos natin ito within this year. Also, our plan is to conduct competitive selection process for our additional 15 mega power supply. These documents are with NEA for approval, which is awaiting the issuance of notice to proceed. And fifth, we will conduct a CSP in replacement of our Green Core supply in 2025. Ma-expire siya this 2025, which is one is included in our long-term plan doon sa consortium ng Panay Guimaras power supply agreement, no? So these are the long-term and short-term talaga na plano ng Eleco 1 in order for us to reduce our supply, the rate of our generation. And we wanted also to show the power rate components, no, sa atin para at least mabigyan tayo ng overview. Saan ba talaga pumupunta yung ano natin, yung binabayaran na rate? Ito yung component. Yung tingnan natin yung pie, 63% ng binabayaran natin pumupunta sa generation. Yung pumupunta naman sa Eleco 1, yung sa makita natin, yung DSM, which is 161, or that is 50% of our rate. Yung transmission, mayroon siyang 8%. Yung systems loss natin, may 5%. Yung senior citizen natin is almost zero. Yung lifeline rate natin, almost zero. Yung universal charge, meron siyang 2%. Yung feed-in tariff is 1%. Yung PC stranded debt, almost 0%. At saka yung VAT natin is 3%. These are the components ng rate na binabayaran natin. And let me also show yung comparative rates natin from July 2020 to August 2021 with regards to more. Para magkaroon tayo ng overview, no? Dito sa presentation, for our residential consumers, sa nakita natin doon sa screen, this is a presentation from 12 months and 14 months. Prior nung nag-depart si Moore sa kanyang kontrata last July, last niya is June of 2021. So makita natin dito sa monthly na rate. For the month of July of 2020, yung Eleco 1 may 9 pesos and 74 centavos. Yung More is 10 pesos and 11 centavos. In the month of August, 9 pesos yung Eleco 1, 93 centavos. Si More may 10 pesos. In summary, for the 12 months from July 2020 to June of 2021, ang Eleco 1 ay may average rate na 10 pesos and 30 centavos per kilowatt hour. Yung More naman, may 10 pesos and 19 centavos per kilowatt hour, or a difference of 1.01% na mas mababa si More compared to Eleco 1. On the average of 14 months, na nagkaroon na siya, nag-depart na siya, nagkumuha na siya ng supply niya sa PISAM, yung average rate ni Eleco 1 is 10 pesos and 46 centavos per kilowatt hour. Si More, 9 pesos and 77 centavos. He is better by 6.624% actually sa residential consumers. Punta naman tayo sa commercial, yung low voltage. Yung sa low voltage or commercial natin, from July to June, sa 12 months na comparison, ang Eleco 1 ay may average rate of 8 pesos and 79 centavos per kilowatt hour. Si More naman, may 9 pesos and 36 centavos per kilowatt hour, or a difference of 6.1%. Mas mababa si Eleco 1 for the past 12 months ng 6.1%. Pero kung idagdag natin yung dalawang buwan na nag-shift si More doon sa PISAM, yung average rate ni Eleco 1 is 8 pesos and 97 centavos. Si More naman is 8 pesos and 89 centavos, or a difference of 0.95% lesser si More compare sa Eleco 1 sa commercial natin. Punta naman tayo dito sa high voltage, sa industrial natin na mga consumers. For the past 12 months, from July to June of 2021, ang Eleco 1 ay may average rate na 7 pesos and 59 centavos per kilowatt hour. Si More may 9 pesos and 63 centavos, ay a difference of 21.23% lower si Eleco 1 compared kay More sa industrial. For the past 14 months, si Eleco 1 may average rate of 7 pesos and 77 centavos per kilowatt hour. Si More naman, 9 pesos and 34 centavos per kilowatt hour, or a difference of 16.8%. Pero mas mababa pa rin si Eleco 1 compared to More. So, this presentation shows that what really separates More and Eleco 1 in terms of rate is the generation charges of the existing contracts with the different power suppliers. In fact, these power supply agreements passed the evaluation of the Department of Energy and Energy Regulatory Commission in effect approved the long-term electric power supply agreements of Eleco 1. If this contract ends and Eleco 1 conducts a competitive selection process, we are sure and certain that the generation rate will significantly be lowered. We must take note that 63% of the existing rate is made as payment to the power suppliers, while our distribution, supply, and metering charges accounts only to 15%. If given the same rate of generation supply, Eleco is competitive to more this operation as shown in the comparative rate presentation. Ito po, Madam Chair, at saka sa magigiting nating mga senators, no? Ito po sana po bigyan natin ng kahulugan ang buhay ng mga biniwes ng mga taong nagtaguyod nitong kooperatiba. Nasa isang iglap lang, kunin natin sa kanila ng ganito kabilis, itibaliwala. Ang 50 years, Eleco One is serving its member consumer owners for more than 50 years now sa pagbigay ng liwanag sa aming mga tahanan. Sa totoo po, kami sa pamunuan, ayaw rin ng mahal na singil ng kuryente. Kasi kabilang din kami sa bayaring ito. Dahil dito, nananawagan kami at kumakatok sa kalubluban ng inyong puso't isipan na sana'y kahit isang kusing lang, bigyan ng patas na laban ng mga kooperatiba at ayon sa batas ang desisyon sa isyong ito. Gusto kong mag-iwan ng matanong sa ating mga mahal na senador. First po, dito sa issue sa rate, ano po ba talaga ang ugat ng problemang ito? Ito po ba ay kagagawa ng electric cooperative o dahil sa mataas na presyo ng mga nagsusupply ng kuryente? Pangalawa po, ang pagpalawak ba ng prangkisa ni Moore ang talagang sagot o solusyon sa pagtaas ng presyo ng kuryente? Ito po ba ayon sa existing laws, umiiral na batas? Third, hindi pa dapat bigyan din ng konsiderasyon at pagpapalaga ang matagal ng pamamahala ng mga co-op sa kanilang franchise area dahil hindi naman po iling co-op ang Eleco 1, 2, and 3. Dahil sa katunayan po, Mega Large at AAA co-op po kami base sa record ng NEA. At pang-apat po, hindi po ba nararapat na bigyan ng pagkakataon na patunayan ng mga co-op na kaya nilang gawa ng paraan para masolba ang mga problema ito sa tunay na pagtutulungan ng mga government agencies at regulatory bodies, kagaya po ng NEA, DOA at RC, sa mabilis na pagbigay ng mga desisyon sa mga kailangan ng mga co-op. Sana po mag-intervene ang DOA at RC para ripasuhin o review ang aming existing PSA or Power Supply Agreement. Ito po, isa ring sagot pala sa sinabi ni SB Pardo kanina. Dito po sa isang bayan malapit sa Pavia, ang San Miguel po, ay nagbigay ng resolution sa Eleco 1, no? Sa kanilang session, 122nd regular session. Sinabi po doon sa resolution na it was headed by the Vice Mayor of the Municipality of San Miguel, Honorable Bonifacio Salapantan. Ito po yung resolution, kasalungat po doon sa sinabi kanina, or a different view ng mga Sangguniang Bayan members doon sa San Miguel, which is just adjacent to Pavia. Itong resolution na nagsasabi, please share screen. Resolution number 21, 2017. Ito po nasabi, resolution urging the Department of Energy and the Energy Regulatory Commission to intervene on the issue on high power rates of electric cooperatives in the province of Iloilo, particularly the Electric Cooperative Incorporated Eleco 1 as against the private distribution utility in the city. Ito po ay katunayan po na hindi lahat ng nasasakupan doon sa area ay isang-ayon na talagang magkaroon ng private DO sa aming franchise area. Ito po ang katunayan na hindi po lahat sa 6 na sinabi doon na papunta sa More na kasama din sila. In fact, this resolution from San Miguel is a testament na hindi sila payag na magkaroon ng dalawang distribution utility sa kanilang bayan. Sana po mabigyan natin ng pagkakataon na mabigyan ng patas na pagripaso itong issue na ito sa Senado. We fully believe in the integrity and independence of the Senate. That's why po it is our prayer na sana po magkaroon ng patas na resolution ang itong issue na ito para po sa kapakanan ng lahat ng mga consumers na nasa kupan ng Eleco 1, 2, and 3. Salamat po at sana po ipagpalain kayo na ating poong may kapal. Thank you po and good afternoon.
Thank you for your presentation, engineer. Actually, that is quite a good presentation. But what you're trying to say is that it's really the power supply issue again, right? The reason why your charges are higher is because of the power supply. But otherwise, everything else being equal, if let's say your power supply costs were the same as more, your charges will actually be the same, if not lower as more. Am I correct?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, now, here's the question. Who can intervene on your behalf?
Yes,
Can NEA or the Department of Energy negotiate for you for your power supply costs?
I fully believe, Madam Senator, na yung power supply agreements namin, dumaan yun sa DOE at saka ERC. So sana po ma-review yun or anything na magkaroon ng dialogue between the power suppliers and the distribution utilities po para at least po magkaroon ng review yung rates. Kasi matagal na ito pong mga kontrata. Kung titingnan natin po sa presentation kanina, ang tagal pa po ng kontrata namin. Mayroon kaming ditong kontrata sa Panay Energy Development Corporation, Plan 3 nila, which will expire on 2042 po. And one also sa Panay Energy Development Corporation, Plant 1 and 2, na sa 2036 pa po mag-expire.
So bakit kayo pumasok sa kasunduan na gano'n, na hindi market prices ang that determine the cost of your power supply? Why did you agree to it to begin with?
Yes, Madam Chair, we know for the fact that during those years, no, talagang kulang talaga ang supply ng kuryente. Sabi nga dito sa Iloilo, kahit mahal basta mayroong kuryente. Kasi during that time po talagang scarce masyado ang power supply dito. So kaya ito talaga ni-review. This is a contract which passed through scrutiny of the DOE and the RC. I think po yung pagpasok ng kontrata na ito, hindi lang yung kagagawan ng DOE at saka yung power supplier. May intervention din po kasi yung DOE, yung RC at saka sa NEA. Pumasa po itong lahat na ito. This is above board during that time, Madam Chair. So I think what we are proposing is, I think kung sana matulungan tayo ng mga government agencies to review these contracts. Well, actually, we have made a dialogue.
Sir, sino bang may-ari ng mga power suppliers na may kontrata kayo? Like what companies?
Yeah, private. Ito po, Madam Chair, yung PEDC, Panay Energy Development Corporation po, at saka yung sa geothermal namin dito sa Green Core, 2025 mag-expire po ito. So at least 18 mega at lower rate siya by 5 pesos.
Sino may-ari niyan?
Hindi ko po masyado kilala yung mga korporasyon po ito eh.
Yeah, well, anyway, so corporation din yan. I don't know, Senator Drilon, can the DOE and the NEA negotiate for them? I'm sorry.
Well, really, I agree with Mr. Paguntalan that indeed the shortness of the supply then gave an advantage to the generators to dictate practically on the generation price. That's exactly what happened to PECO and Panay Power. With the supply situation very erratic, the power suppliers had a field day dictating the price and demanding long-term contracts. So by some stroke of circumstance, the more power would no longer be bound by these onerous supply agreements because they're a new entity, and therefore they had every opportunity no longer to honor, and they did not honor anymore the power supply agreements with Panay Power, which was very expensive, and had the opportunity to go to the open market. That's that's the situation from where I sit, and I'm sure that Mr. Paguntalan can confirm this. In other words, that was the market situation at that time. It favored the generation suppliers, the generation companies.
Yes,
Senator Gatchalian is recognized. Senator Gatchalian.
Engineer, Miguel, I noticed in Eleco 1 that only 10 out of your 450 plus megawatts went through CSP. Tama po ba ho yun?
I think yes, Senator. Kasi dati po, as far as I know, yung CSP rule kasi in-apply lang ng 2015. Yung mga prior contracts po, 2011, 2006, hindi po ito dumaan sa CSP.
How much
And
is your...
the implementation of this CSP rule is on 2018.
Yes, I know that. But how much is that CSP? How much is the price when you conducted that CSP?
As far as we have po, hindi pa po kasi kami nagkaroon ng CSP since then, ano? Noong 2018 yung pag-apply. Kung makita mo dito sa presentation namin, Senator, yung pinaka-latest namin na contract with PDC is 2017.
And that went through CSP?
Bilateral contract po ito, as I know.
Wala kayong CSP? Wala kayong contract that went through CSP?
Wala pa po.
Okay. So all of your contracts were negotiated bilaterally?
Yes po, as far as I know, bilateral contracts po lahat.
In your contracts, in your bilateral contracts, is there any provision there on repricing? And is there any provision there on renegotiating, especially when circumstances like this will crop up? Because to be honest about it, again, no, I will go back to your contracts. That's the crux of the problem. It's the contracts that Ileco has entered into, and that's a problem right now. So, is there a way to renegotiate, or is there a way to reprice, and how fast can we do that?
Thank you, Senator Wayne. So far, we have contacted our suppliers for a dialogue last November for a repricing. But I know for the fact na Green Core, there is a provision in the contract for repricing wherein we already exercised that provision. And the other contracts, I think there was none. But there is a provision in the contract for pre-termination. And we are talking about this PPC, Panay Power Corporation, which is our peaking supplier, which is a higher rate of 10 pesos and 31 centavos. Hopefully, we can fulfill this pre-termination within this year. So that would be have a big effect on our rate, no? And as with our dialogue, they are willing to have a joint termination with this contract. The rest po, I think yung yung dialogue namin parang mahirap po yung pre-repricing. I personally asked for a bigger part ng yung PPD namin, yung tawag dito yung parang prompt payment discount. Prompt payment discount, dagdagan lang po nila yung prompt payment discount namin para at least po mapapasa din namin sa consumer ang prompt payment discount. Kasi yung prompt payment discount sa GCI, I know is mga 2 to 3%. So 50% ng discount will go to our consumers.
Dapat pala, Senator Win, dapat pala makuha natin yung position din ng Panay Power, no? Kasi, for example, Ileco will lose market share. Wouldn't that also affect Panay Power? I mean, it's to their interest to lower their costs, maybe to make it more competitive. Otherwise, they won't be able to supply power anymore in that area. Hindi kaya?
Can I answer that, Madam Chair?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, yes, Madam Chair. There is a willingness of Panay Power Corporation to pre-terminate our contract, Madam Chair.
Okay, how about Green? Ano ba to?
We can do it this year.
How about Greenco?
Greencore po, kung tingnan natin, Madam Chair, yung Greencore is 5 pesos and 71 centavos, which will expire on 2025. I think this is a reasonable amount.
all things considered, syempre, even if it's reasonable, your cost will still be higher than your
Yeah, yeah.
competitor, if ever. So medyo mahirap pa din yon. So ano ba naman ilang years na nila hawak din yung kontrata na to, pagbigyan nila yung sandali, kesa naman they'll totally lose out if Ileco is sidelined by more power. I mean, this is just one of the things that crossed my mind. But Senator Drilon had his hand raised.
Yes, I concur with our chairperson. Maybe this is an opportunity for Ileco 1, 2, and 3 to renegotiate their supply agreements. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but these were entered into at the time when there was a lot of supply issue. And therefore, the generating companies was at an advantage insofar as these power agreements, supply agreements are concerned. I agree with our chair. Maybe this is a good opportunity for the cooperatives to renegotiate, and if not, try to go to court, ask your lawyers to study for the reformation of these contracts for public interest. There is a provision in the civil code which allows a reformation of a contract. I'm just talking off the cuff. I do not know if it's applicable, but there appears to be a remedy under our laws, and maybe we should study this because, again, I would repeat, the situation in Iloilo City was that these supply agreements were entered into when there were supply problems, and therefore under the gun yung distributor. So the result was at a very, very, very high generation cost to the distributor, which was passed on to the consumer. More took over and did not honor these contracts signed by PECO, and therefore they were able to go to PISAM and the open market. So it's not an easy situation to resolve, Madam Chair. There are pros and cons on both sides, and this has to be, and I do not know whether there is a solution. Thank you very much.
Actually, Senator Drilon, if you recall, just recently, there was a restructuring of the franchise agreement with Manila Water and Maynilad, because the government raised that issue of being disadvantageous to the public. The difference is Ileco has a triple star service rating. So they come in with a very convincing position that it is not their inefficiency or incompetence that makes them less viable. It is more because of the contract that they were bound to accept because of the situation at the time when generation was much more controlled. So maybe the regulating agencies can step in and help Ileco with an appeal to those power suppliers to lower their costs in the interest of the public. So that's just at the top of my head and based on what we have been discussing. Anyway, are there Senator Gatchalian is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And in addition to the suggestion of the good chairperson and Senator Drilon, it's about time really to look at the contracts and negotiate right away. Because this, frankly speaking, engineer, this franchise is from a clamor from our consumers, and the clamor stemmed from that electricity rates. And that's why it's a good opportunity. But we have to take note of the time to negotiate these contracts. I'm not very sure what is inside your contracts, but I think use all legal remedies in order to get away from those high-priced contracts. And again, the clamor comes from our constituents, from the consumers there. And I understand also from the House hearings that there were 8 8 LGUs who issued.
I'm sorry, the stenographer. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Senwin, sorry.
I understand that there are LGUs who issued resolutions in support of this franchise. So that goes to show, I understand 8 LGUs issued from the transcript in the House. And that goes to show that there is clamor from the consumers. So I'll go back to Ileco 1 to renegotiate ASAP so that our consumers can see that the electric co-ops are doing everything it can to lower down electricity rates. At the end of the day, GM, electricity rates to and we all know that. No?
Actually, Senator Win is right to point out that a franchise is a local bill because it's reflective of a particular area's concern. So having these congressmen in the House push for this means, well, we assume is reflective of what their constituents want. That's why we're forced to good here. Now, sir, alam nyo, pagkatapos nitong hearing na to, I have to write a committee report. And all of your concerns, including those that are pushing for more, will be included in this committee report. And then I will have to sponsor this on the floor. Whether or not I agree with this, it has to be heard by the body, by the Senate. And because it will give our fellow senators an opportunity to interpolate and to ask what the advantages are for the people of Iloilo. Hopefully, by the time this is tackled on the floor, you will have had already by that time a renegotiated contract with your power suppliers, because that will be something that can weigh in heavily also in your favor. Having said that, we only have 2 weeks left. I don't know if we will be able to tackle this on the floor, but definitely this is an urgent issue because it weighs in on the pockets of our countrymen in Iloilo. So we would like to have this done in the 18th Congress. I'm not sure if Senator Drilon agrees, but for our countrymen in Iloilo, malaking bagay ito because if this is resolved by the 18th Congress, that means in the coming months, bababa yung presyo ng kuryente nila, if ever, di ba? If we have to go through the 19th Congress again to deliberate this topic without a negotiated contract for Ileco, ibig sabihin another at least a year na mataas pa rin ang presyo ng kuryente dun sa mga lugar na sineserbisyohan ng Ileco. So, madaliin na lang ninyo po yung pag-renegotiate.
Maybe, Madam Chair, this committee can lean on the ERC and whoever to force them to prompt the early resolution of this very onerous situation. You cannot blame our constituents in the elect 1, 2, and 3 because they see at the end of the day, the consumer will just say his electric bill mas mataas kaysa katabi niya. Hindi mahirap ipaliwanag sa kanila eh. Kaya if from the way this discussion is going, one of the immediate reliefs available is to lean on the ERC to compel the power suppliers to reform the power supply contracts because there is really a change in circumstance. Whereas before, there was no sufficient supply and there was no open market that they can look up to, and the circumstances have changed. There's now enough power supply. I'm just putting up the theory. There's enough power supply so that there's a change in circumstance insofar as the cost of generated power is concerned. So the key, ma'am, if I may suggest, is to lean on the regulating agencies where we can and ask them to lean on the generation companies. Siguro naman, pag-isipan natin kung pwede natin ibaba muna ang power rates.
Oo, dahil Senator Drilon, nagtutubong lugaw na yung mga power generators, eh. 'Di ba? Because ang laki na ng malaki na ang tubo ng mga power suppliers, 'di ba?
Yes. Very
Malaki
profitable.
Ano ba naman yung babaan nila ng konti, or else they'll totally lose that market share. But of course, this has a positive effect on consumers. If NEA is able to renegotiate, this can also be done in other areas where a contract has been entered into by the local cooperative. So in the long run, this might be more advantageous to other cooperatives also that have entered into a contract that is a little bit outdated, considering the spot market price now of power generation.
And just a final point. Remember, ma'am, that the ERC has rate-setting powers, and therefore, regardless of everything, they have the power to set the rates and use this power for the public benefit by asking the parties to reform their contracts for the benefit of the public.
Okay, can we ask? Yeah, before I recognize Senator Win, may I ask the ERC if this is something that you can do?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll have to get back to the Commission if we have the legal basis to compel, Your Honors. But definitely, we will take it up with the distribution utilities concerned. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
May we ask for your submission by tomorrow? Based on what you have, just the doctrines that you have there. I want it
yes,
submitted to our office by tomorrow. Maybe you don't know it by heart, but definitely it's there. Thank you. Senator Win?
Madam Chair, just to be fair, and I want to also put on record that ILECO 1, 2, and 3 are high-performing electric co-ops. They're AAA, they're mega large, they're rated green. In fact, I've seen their numbers. They're very well operated electric co-ops. Unfortunately, the contracts that they have entered into are prior to the competitive selection process. And the CSP is meant to lower down electricity rates and meant to find the best price for our consumers. So if there is a way for ERC to look at that angle wherein the electric co-ops can enter into a competitive selection process or to launch a competitive selection process in lieu of their existing contracts. And on top of that, Madam Chair, let me also just remind the committee also of the unintended consequence of increasing the rates of the remaining consumers. This is quite a serious consequence because from the presentation of ERC, electric rates of consumers can go as high as 5 pesos per kilowatt hour. And we need to look at that angle also because it's unfair. I think it will defeat the purpose that half of your consumers will enjoy electricity rates, but half will experience exorbitant electricity rates. So, in other words, it defeats the purpose of moving forward with this franchise. So, I want to also request from ERC to look at that and to find a way to address that increase in electricity price because that's kawawa naman yung mga matitira, ma'am. And those matitira, ma'am, I've looked at the map, are the far-flung areas. These are the rural areas. So, yung maiiwan doon are the poorest constituents who will experience an increase as high as 5 pesos per kilowatt hour. And that should be addressed, of course, by our committee and also with the help of ERC from the technical side. And
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
Just I can see that Philreca is here and they've been here since the beginning, Madam Chair. With your permission, They have a lot of technical inputs and maybe request their inputs also on this matter.
Yes, I would like to recognize the representative of PhilReca.
So much, Madam Chair. I am Janine Dapay Kulingan, the Executive Director and General Manager of
Please
PhilReca.
speak clearer. Hindi ka masyadong madinig, ma'am.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Hindi pa rin. Lakasan mo yung
Madam
boses
Chair?
mo.
Yeah.
Okay,
Madam
I
Chair?
mean, I can hear it, but I have earphones. I don't know with the others. Are you okay with it?
Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to the honorable members of the Senate who are present here today and the other resource persons. I am Janine Kolingan, the Executive Director and General Manager of PhilReca, the Association of the 121 Electric Cooperatives. Madam Chair, we have submitted our detailed position paper on legislative measure, and we thank this committee for inviting us to be a part of this deliberation today, because we believe that this has a great impact to the electricity consumers in Iloilo. Should it be approved into law, this will have a very significant impact on the rates of electricity, both to the new consumers of the more electric power corporation and to the MCOs who would remain with Ileco 1, 2, and 3. Your Honor, we joined the presentation and the position of the Ileco 3, Ileco 2, and Ileco 1 together with ERC and NEA. We are against or opposing the expansion of the franchise of more, and because the areas are already being served efficiently by the electric cooperatives. Please allow us to provide an overview on why we oppose this measure. At the core of all it, Madam Chair, we oppose this because granting more electric and power corporation a legislative franchise to operate in these areas would be a violation of the existing laws as discussed a while ago. And the IPIRA provides that each franchise area are a geographical area exclusively assigned or granted to a distribution utility. In other words, distribution utility has exclusive franchise to operate a distribution system in accordance with IPIRA. And why was IPIRA configured that way? As mentioned po by Honorable Senator Gatchalian, this exclusive franchise to operate a distribution system granted to distribution utility stems from the physical fact that it is more efficient and cost-effective when one centralized utility will be tasked to distribute electricity to its end users, rather than competing utilities constructing redundant poles and discriminating service from the respective customers or clients. We understand that the other camp believes otherwise, but be it as it may, IPIRA has been there for decades, and the provisions has been there for since its enactment. Also, Your Honors, Madam Chair, if more is going to compete with Ilecos, they will be putting up new facilities or infrastructures, and we have yet to talk about the impact of this in the rates of the more power, because new investment will have impact on this and will of course be recovered by the DU to the member consumer owners. We hope that the aforementioned concerns as discussed today by the resource persons from the electric cooperatives together with ERC and the NEA would be taken into consideration by this honorable committee, and to further review if expanding the franchise of more to cover the areas already being served by the electric cooperatives will be really beneficial to the public, Madam Chair. Again, we thank you, Your Honor, for providing us this opportunity. PhilReca, the Association of 121 Electric Cooperatives, will always be available together with its members for any clarification that you may have on this matter, Madam Chair. Thank you so much po.
Thank you. Any other resource persons that we'd like to call? Is Congresswoman Jam Baronda online? I guess not. So, are the Senator Win?
Madam Chair, I have a few more questions to more, because I read the transcripts in the House deliberation, and to Engineer Roel. I read in the transcripts that if ever given a franchise, two utilities will coexist in the franchise area of Ileco 1, Ileco 2, and Ileco 3. And I read in the transcript that the intention of more is to build new distribution lines, as well as, of course, all the attendant requirements. So with that, is that the intention of more, to build new distribution lines, new substations, and all the attendant requirements?
Madam Chair, may I answer the question of Senator Vince?
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Senator, that's correct.
Yes,
Since it's
Bo.
going to be, hello, sorry. Yeah, since it's going to be a franchise side by side, yes, we will be building new transmission lines, no, and facilities, and we've already made some projections on that, no, and we already have a capex program, no, for the next 5 years. Should the franchise be awarded, Mr. Chair,
So,
Senator.
Mr. Roel, is in those 16 LGUs, there will exist a more distribution line and a ILECO 1 and 2 and 3 distribution line. So regardless if you can poach customers, you will build those lines.
Yes, Senator, that's correct.
Okay. And because those are new lines, obviously that will be now spread out. No, again, put it simply, no, that will now be spread out to the existing consumers, including Iloilo City.
Yes, Senator, that's correct.
So
although there is a doctrine, Senator, no, that there might be a possibility that a tiered pricing, no, can be applied. But this is something that, well, again, I mean, we will have, we are studying, and well, will be up to the regulators to see if there is wisdom to that tiered pricing, Mr. Senator.
But from the present regulation right now, because there's this will be a novelty, a one of its kind. So with the present regulation right now, Iloilo City will now be part of the denominator, correct?
That's correct, Senator.
Obviously, this new capex will be borne or will be paid by the consumers in Iloilo City as well.
Will be included, yes, because the new capex will be part of the regulated asset base. Well, that would include the consumers of Iloilo as well, Mr. Senator.
The distribution charge will now go up, correct?
Well, it is, yes. That's correct.
Go up.
Yes, that's correct, Senator.
So how much will it go up? Because
based on the simulation that we've made.
No, you might be competitive in the generation aspect, but in the transmission aspect, because you're building in the distribution aspect, because you're building completely new lines, will have to be amortized to a smaller denominator. So how much will the distribution cost go up?
Based on our simulation, Senator, the capex that we have programmed for the next 5 years now would impact something like mga 20 to 25 centavos per kilowatt hour on the DSM.
20 to 25 on the DSM.
Centavos on the DSM, Mr. Senator.
How much is the capex for these new areas?
We're looking at mga 1.5 billion for the next 5 years capex rollout, Senator.
So 1.5 billion for the next 5 years to cover the 16 municipalities.
Yes, Mr. Senator.
Okay. And then with this 1.5 billion pesos, DSM will increase by 25 centavos.
Thereabouts, Mr. Senator, that's correct.
Okay. And I heard you earlier that you've run simulation on the electricity rates, the impact to electricity rates, given a chance that this franchise will be approved.
Yes, Mr. Senator.
Submit to the committee because we want to see
Uh,
also the impact of this franchise to the distribution aspect.
Yes, Mr. Senator, we can submit it to the committee po.
And then can you please project it for the next 10 years?
Yes, Senator, we will provide
will
that po.
5 years in investment, obviously you have to put in more over time. No? So we just want to see how much is the investment for the next 10 years, how much is the impact to the transmission rates. At the same time, please include also your projection for generation, because the new areas will require new generation. Eh?
Yes, Senator. Yes, the growth. Yes, we will include that po.
So based on your experience, of course, when you conduct CSP, to a larger extent, no, it depends on the situation. But give us a projection, so we will get a feel on the retail rates that will be charged if ever this franchise gets approved. So we see the bottom line. Yeah, at the end of the day, well, ang pinaka-importante, the bottom line, the electricity rates. So we want to see the projection.
Yes, Senator, we will provide that po. We'll submit it as early as possible.
Yeah, we'll validate those numbers as we get your projections.
Yes, actually,
Yes,
Mr. Castro, that will be part, I'm sure that will be part of the interpellation of Senator Gatchalian. And I need to have that data.
Yes, ma'am. We actually have it. We will just do a final review, then comply and submit it to the committee po, ma'am.
Okay. Are there further questions from my colleagues, or can we wrap up this hearing?
Madam Chair, just as a final statement, no, and looking at this broadly, and Senator Drilon mentioned earlier that this is actually a one of its kind. The Dagupan situation, I looked at my notes, is actually a takeover of the Dagupan Electric from Manawag Electric. Manawag Electric had the franchise, and the Dagupan Electric, as a private entity, took over. No, and that was the situation there. But in this particular case, there will be two existing franchises over the same area. And traditionally, the distribution business has operated in a concept of economies of scale. Because the capex is big, you spread the cost so that you lower down electricity rates. And because of this concept, a lot of investors invested in this company, in this sector, not only electric co-ops but also private. The other unintended consequence of this is we will open this type of arrangement in the future, wherein other corporations can go in other electric co-ops can go in other areas, no, and this will open some form of opportunity to other entities to come in. And what can happen is the sector will have to adjust in that concept of economies of scale. So meaning, investors might not be willing to invest a large sum because that uncertainty of other entities might apply in the same area. So I'm just looking at a broader concept and a broader situation moving forward. But definitely, Madam Chair, we will wait for all the information coming from the resource person, especially from ERC and from MORE, and also feedback from the co-ops on this matter.
Okay. Senator Drilon, do you have any closing remarks before I wrap up?
Yeah, I don't envy you, Madam Chair. It's a very difficult question.
Well, you know what? I am confident that with a very respected representative from Iloilo, we will have an objective study of this proposed bill. Having heard all of the different views of our resource persons, there's no denying, and we would like to extend our thanks to ILECO 1, 2, and 3 for providing the service that you've given to our countrymen for many decades. Having garnered the AAA rating is certainly a testimony to your service that you have provided. But of course, as members of the legislative branch, we have to keep an open mind to the changing times. At the time that you took the risk and provided power to our countrymen in Iloilo, the economy of the Philippines was much smaller, as well as the population. And a lot of things have changed in terms of the demographics and also the needs of our countrymen, that our task is really to be responsive to the times and the needs of our constituents. So the question now is, would you be able to adapt also to these changes? Would you be able to hopefully renegotiate the cost of your power supply? I think the regulators have to work double time on this. Certainly, it was pointed out that in EPIRA, competition is really encouraged. And as mentioned in the Constitution, no franchise be exclusive in character. So there's also that question of that we need to validate. So in the coming, I will sponsor this measure just because, not because I'm saying that we agree already with this in principle, but because I would like to hear the opinions of all of our colleagues in the Senate. In the interpellation process, all of the questions that we have in mind will hopefully be addressed so that there is an open discussion and the public can hear it. Hindi po ito favoring one over the other. What is for the greater good? And where better else can we be able to present this in the open, but through a plenary discussion? So when I sponsor it, hindi ibig sabihin na we already favor more. Not necessarily. This is to open the discussion in the Senate. In the meantime, ILECO and the regulating agencies, I advise you to work overtime. Because at the bottom line of this, ang itatanong sa atin, kailan mas mura ang kuryente? Kailan mas maganda ang serbisyo? And if by the time we are discussing this, that is not addressed by ILECO, we might be forced to consider this franchise. So, not forced, but in the interest also of competition, I think that we could consider this franchise. So with that, again, thank you to ILECO for your service. We are certainly taking that as far as the consideration of this bill is concerned. To more, thank you for your willingness to expand. That's still an investment that you're giving to our power sector as well as to our economy. Thank you to Senator Drilon. Again, your expert guidance. And of course, one of the nerds of the Senate, Senator Win Gatchalian, who takes the time to read the transcripts of the House and contribute to our hearing. So thank you for all our resource persons here today. Senator Drilon, you're recognized.
Just a final statement, and I will not let this opportunity pass to spread into the record my appreciation for the services of more to Iloilo City. They have indeed made themselves worthy of the franchise that we have granted through and worked on by the chair. Yes, indeed, they have rendered services which contributes to the economic progress of the city. So let me close this by a note of commendation to the more for the services done for Iloilo City. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
I'm glad that you gave them recognition. Actually, the discussion is a little bit more difficult because there's an Exhibit A already by Moore with the service that they have provided to Iloilo City. So it's very hard to discount the fact that there are a lot of satisfied customers there and others would like to avail of the same. Okay, so anyway, that's it for now. I would like to thank our resource persons for your presence here today. And let me leave you with this thought. If, for example, there are several detergents in the market, there's one that's always been reliable, that we've grown accustomed to, but then another detergent becomes available, which is cheaper and promises the same service. Of course, you cannot blame customers from wanting to have a choice in the matter. So that's all, Mr. To our resource persons. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Maayong hapon.